Today 95.1 FM, Voice of the People. I am Aini Abdul Salam. Welcome you to a lovely third day of the third month in the year 2020. We, of course, have the show Today's Quest ongoing, and the segment we're on now is the newspaper review. We'll be going through some stories from the dailies this morning, and that should take us till the top of the hour, 9 o'clock, where we expect to join the newsroom for the news update. So welcome on board. Let's start with the Vanguard Newspaper. Bye-bye handshakes, how coronavirus is changing global habits. Fresh Kaduna killings, we won't negotiate with terrorists and bandits, says El-Rufai. Fresh Kaduna killings, we won't negotiate with terrorists and bandits, says El-Rufai. APC lashes out at unfaithful members. APC lashes out on unfaithful members. That story is in the Vanguard this morning. Amotekun, Nigeria's greatest achievement. Baggy is the one speaking there. You get that story. It's in the Vanguard newspaper. Amotekun, Nigeria's greatest achievement. Baggy. And then, why Nigerians clamor for true federalism? Senator Autumn. Why Nigerians clamor for true federalism? Senator Autumn. And then we have here U.S. coronavirus death rises to 6. That's what I saw just now. I saw that story a moment ago. Yes, U.S. coronavirus death toll rises to 6, all in Washington state. That story is in the Vanguard newspaper, so you might want to grab a copy, or you could just listen to us as we go through some of the stories. And then, Iwu, we have found the cure for coronavirus. We've found cure for coronavirus. Iwu, that story is in the Vanguard newspaper. And then, Ihedioha versus Uzodimma nagging issues before Apex Court on through thirds majority. Ihedioha versus Uzodimma nagging issues before Apex Court on 2/3 majority. And then finally, I think that's about it. All right, let's get to the stories. Very first story there, bye-bye handshakes, how coronavirus is changing world habits. Manuel Ndukwe, good morning, good to have you.
Good morning, Annie. Good morning, Nigeria.
Oh, we didn't shake this morning, did we? So
Yeah, maybe the world has started changing the habits. But
we didn't get to shake this morning, did we? Anyways, bye-bye handshakes. How coronavirus is changing global habits. Say no to a handshake. Refuse kisses on the cheeks. And definitely avoid hugging. Instead, a direct gaze. Or maybe a gesture with the hands. All around the world, people are changing their daily habits at work, at home, and in worship in order to reduce the risk of contracting the coronavirus and prevent it from spreading any further. AFP take a close look at habits that are changing around the world due to the coronavirus that has killed 3,060 worldwide. In Beijing, the capital of the country where the outbreak began, red hoardings tell people not to shake hands, but to join their own hands together as a sign of greeting. All right. Loudspeakers tell people to make traditional gong shu gesture, a fist in the opposite palm to say hello. And then in France, newspapers have been filled with advice over how to replace handshaking, a daily formality for the French at work, and kissing on the cheeks, a regular greeting habit in France even between people who have only just met. Lifestyle expert Philippe Lichfus, who has been widely cited in the media, insists that handshakes are a relatively recent development in human history that began in the Middle Ages. He says simply looking into a person's eyes can suffice as a greeting. In Brazil, the Brazilian Health Ministry has recommended the citizens not to share the metal straws traditionally used to consume the caffeine-rich South American drink mate, also known as chimarro, and a kiss, even if it's not in the mouth, is meanwhile totally advised against. In Germany, in a sign of times, Germany's interior minister Horst Seehofer rebuffed Chancellor Angela Merkel's attempt to shake hands with him on Monday, smiling and keeping his hands to himself. The both laughed and Merkel threw her hands up in the air before taking a seat. The outbreak will also hit one of Spain's most cherished traditions, the kissing of sculptures of the Virgin Mary in the weeks leading up to Easter. With just a month to go before the week starts, the ritual could be banned. It is one of the measures that is on the table, said the national health official Fernando Simon. During the Holy Week, the faithful queue up to kiss the hands or feet of the sculptures of Mary and the saints, seeking their protection. Romania's Martisol festival marks the beginning of spring, when talismanic strings and flowers are handed out, often from men to women. But the government has passed on a message to people, urging them to hand over the flowers and talismans without the accompanying keys. Let's give the flowers, but not the keys. Hold your keys this time around. And then in Poland, one of Europe's most Catholic countries, the faithful are allowed to take spiritual communion instead of consuming the communal bread. Or the host can be taken in the hands rather than the mouth. The faithful have been asked not to dip their hands in the holy water when going in and out of church. Instead, make the sign of the cross. And in Iran, is the foot shake the new handshake? In Iran, where 66 have been killed by the coronavirus, a video has gone viral where three friends meeting in their pockets and two of whom are wearing masks, tapping their feet against each other as a greeting sign. A similar video in Lebanon shows singer Ragheb Alama and comedian Michael Suleiman tapping their feet against each other while making kissing noises with their mouths. I think that's the same for United Arab Emirates. It says it's stopping the traditional nose-to-nose greeting. The UAE also said that people shouldn't shake hands anymore or greet each other by waving only. All right. It seems around the world where coronavirus has been most hit, luckily, it hasn't been pandemic in Africa. Somehow we didn't get to have the blow that it's having around the rest of the world. And for people around the world, they're looking for smarter ways where they have less human contact. And handshakes are one of the quickest ways where this virus has been passed from person to person. And so they're changing certain traditions. So we're not shaking, we're not kissing on the cheeks, and we'll just, as much as possible, keep a distance from each other. First of all, I want to look at the fact that the virus itself is having such a rave moment across the rest of the world. It doesn't seem to be having that impact like when we saw Ebola. Ebola was, heavily in Africa, and the rest of the world were looking into Africa. Now it seems Africa is sitting on the side and looking at the rest of the world, but except for our one case here in Nigeria.
Yeah, is it 2 cases? Because there's another one I heard, but that's not official.
Okay, so let's leave it unofficial.
You see, desperate times call for desperate measures. And that's just what I find out in the whole thing. So any measure at all that could limit at least coronavirus infection and all that, I think it's very much even with people of the world. Even in Africa, where it can stealthily come in, you can count the numbers. We have to be very careful because on religious grounds and all the rest of them, shaking hand could be a purchase of coronavirus. So once you kissing out all the rest of them, they should be kept at the back bench. Measures, all to cut coronavirus.
All right, got your thoughts on that. Dr. Robinson Monday Olulu is here. He's the head department of economics, University of Port Harcourt. Good to have you here with us. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Annie. Good morning, Nigerians.
Were you handshaking people around today?
Well, there's another strategy we use now, like Uniport. When you meet, all you do is just to throw your right leg, the other person throw the other right leg, and that is greeting. So there are several ways of greeting.
Oh my goodness! It is truly revolutionary.
And some of these strategies, let us just wait so that this thing will go. Because in Africa here, what we do is shake hands as a sign of appreciation, greetings. But I think it has to wait for some time now so that this thing will come and go. And then we'll start our normal African way of appreciating or greeting each other. the coronavirus, I think in Africa, we are still, I don't know, but some persons are saying that the heat in Africa, maybe that could be one of those things that is making that virus not to penetrate Africa. But as scientific science, investigations are going on. So I think with time, we'll know whether this virus will survive properly in Africa or not.
All right. Let's move on from that story, though, to another here in the Vanguard Newspaper. Ihedioha versus Uzodinma issues before Apex Court on 2/3 majority. It says here, as the Supreme Court today entertains the appeal filed by former Imo State Governor Emeka Ihedioha challenging the nullification of his elections, fresh facts show that the Apex Court has many knotty questions to answer. There are indications that neither Senator Hope Uzodinma nor Ihedioha meets the constitutional requirements to be declared winner from all results available. I find this really funny. So in any result at all, none of them qualifies. Well, therefore, if none of the duo meets the requirements to be declared governor, what will the Apex Court do? Will it order a rerun or fresh polls? From the results Uzodinma tendered, based on which the Apex Court nullified Ihedioha's election and ordered his swearing in, the All Progressives Congress APC candidate did not score 25% of votes cast in at least 18 of the 27 local councils. That's 2/3 required to be declared governor. Former Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Emeka Ihedioha, who ran on the card of the People's Democratic Party, was declared the winner of the governorship election and sworn in. The figures in the first results announced by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, showed that Ihedioha pulled 273,404 ahead of his closest rival and a candidate of Action Alliance, AA Uche Nwosu, who pulled 190,364 votes. The candidates of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, Abga Ifeanyi Ararume, came third with 114,676 votes ahead of Uzodinma, who came fourth with 96,548 votes. No fewer than 70 candidates took part in the election. Announcing the results, the state's returning officer and vice chancellor of the Federal University of Agriculture, Umudike, Abia State, Francis Otunta, gave the total registered voters across the state as 2,221,008, and the total accredited voters as 823,743. He said 25,130 votes were cancelled across the state, with total valid votes put at 714,355, while the total votes cast were 739,485. However, Uzodinma challenged the declaration of Ihedioha as winner, urging that INEC excluded results from 388 polling units, which, if added, he will be the winner. He lost at the tribunal and the Court of Appeal, but won the upper hand at the Apex Court. The Supreme Court, in a unanimous judgment delivered by Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, held that the case of the appellants had merit and consequently granted the reliefs as prayed by Uzodinma and the APC. According to the Apex Court, the concurrent judgment of the lower court erred in law when it excluded votes totaling 213,295 from 388 polling units from the total scores at the election. It is hereby declared that the first appellant, Senator Hope Uzodinma, pulled a majority of lawful votes cast at the governorship held in Imo State on March 9th and satisfied the mandatory constitutional threshold and spread across the state, Apex Court ruled. However, Vanguard checks showed that from the results Uzodinma tendered, he did not meet the 25% score in 18 local councils, which is 2/3 of 27 local government councils in Imo State. In the first result, he scored 25% and above in 2 councils, Oru West and Oru East, and in the second, which did not have scores for other 68 parties, Uzodinma had 25% and above in 17 councils, one shy of the required 18. If the scores of the other political parties are added, it will be less than 17. The 17 councils where he scored 25% and above are Obowo, Ehimembano, Ngo. Okay, well, they're all over there. And then, although Ihedioha had the simple majority in the first result, the tally showed that he did not score 25% of votes in 18 local councils. He did it in 11 councils. And the second result that gifted Uzodinma victory, he scored 25% in 8 local councils. The 11 councils Ihedioha got 25% in the first results are also listed here. So they're saying this is the naughty part for the Apex Court. This issue of 25% spread in 2/3 of the area, at least in view. And if Imo State is the area in view here, they're saying, well, Uzodima didn't get that 25%. And in some cases, they say he's just one local council shy.
Good. So there should be no welling. Nothing at all.
And gnashing of teeth.
Yes. If Uzodima does not meet the criteria to be governor, let him be removed. If Ihedioha doesn't meet the criteria for being governor, let him be removed.
Who will they put now, Emmanuel?
Yes, certainly they'll order for a rerun. That is just the only thing. Assuming we are to go by this particular postulation of, is it which paper? Now,
Vanguard.
If none of them meets it, simple. You don't meet it, then let there be fresh elections. That's the way I think about it. But you know that the Supreme Court may have its own formula for calculating all those things. So in the end, if they don't, whoever they put, should they have rather, now the person stays. But if they don't, fresh elections will be the next option.
All right. What do you think, Dr. Lulu?
Well, I'll be so surprised that the Supreme Court will not have brought its mind to that point of law, 25% requirement. I doubt. Because that should be, I don't think anybody, 5 justices will just, won't remember that point anymore, that the winner should get 2/3, and 25% in 2/3 of the number of counties or local governments. Well, let us see what happened. Now the case will come up later, and probably it may not even be all that we are thinking.
Yeah,
it may be a slam, and some persons may maybe need to go back to their bank, and the Supreme Court, they have a way of doing their things. So the lawyers they should also be prepared.
All right.
Maybe they may slam them something again.
Okay.
They'll slam them again.
That story is in the Vanguard Newspaper. Moving on, with found cure for coronavirus. This is from Iwu. It was the former INEC chairman. A former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Maurice Iwu, said on Monday his team had discovered a cure for the deadly coronavirus. Iwu, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Bioresources Institute of Nigeria, stated this when he led his team of researchers to brief the Minister of Science and Technology, Ogbonnaya Onu, and his health counterpart, Dr. Osage Ehanere, in Abuja. He said the institute identified and patented the possible COVID-19 treatment in 2015 and now needs the federal government support to translate the compound into a drug for the treatment of the virus. Nigeria recorded its first case of coronavirus last Friday, and over 20 persons who had contact with the index have been quarantined. That's the index case. Emmanuel, so Nigeria is saying, look, we had, in fact, since 2015, but we just need to turn it into a drug.
Yeah. If this will move government to give him an acclaim, fine. Because I remember vividly in 1986, Professor Njoku was in Soka, discovered a vaccine for cholera. It was later transferred to Britain, where, however, it was handled. But Njoku was acclaimed a person that discovered that. Then Abalaka, HIV. That one came up, they said, no, it wasn't possible for whatever. It wasn't given to him. You remember this guy, Professor Ngochindo or so, who came down to
That's the station here.
Good. They said it was concoction. So now if who is coming, and perhaps they see that Nigerian is worthy to have the acclaim of having discovered anything that will cure an ailment around the world, fine. But for me now, I do not know how government will look at it, because he rightly stated it's for government to give the patent and all that.
All right. What are your thoughts here, Dr.
Well, I think the way we start introducing these issues, this is not the first time. The one Ndukwe had mentioned, that's how we started. We started with the pages of newspaper. I think that is not proper. Now, the West and other parts of the world, they are investigating. They are in the laboratories now, I mean, thinking of how to take care of this coronavirus. You won't hear it from anywhere until it has gone to the last stage. But our own, we have started on the page of newspaper that we can do this, we can do that. I think this is not the proper way of addressing or going about it.
Right.
There are organizations that would handle or help individuals or group of individuals that come up with discoveries, not just government. And so by the time we put it now before the public, people will criticize it and all that. At the end of the day, we will not be able to come up with anything.
Right.
So we should find proper way of even if we have done investigation and we have solutions, there should be way of handling it instead of bringing it to the public glare. I mean, immediately.
What he said is not now. He said whether in 2015. Good, that means everything about it had been. I don't know whether coronavirus existed then or what.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps they got whatever it was that could take care of similar threats that coronavirus is posing. So if it were in 2015, the issue is that did he nudge government to give the recognition then? Or are they going to give now? Let's just see what will happen. But if it will now indeed be that the Nigerian has discovered that, well, credit to Nigeria.
All right, then. Moving on. Why Nigerians clamor for true federalism. Senator Okon is the one speaking there. Akwa Ibom elder and pioneer National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Senator Anyete Okon has expressed discontent over the current state of governance in the country. Okon, who spoke with newsmen over the weekend in Uyo, condemned the infiltration and killing by herdsmen in Ugeli Delta State and others in the Niger Delta, adding that the silence of government and its failure to check the activities was worrisome. Okon said the demand by Nigerians to return the country to true federalism in recent times explains that the people are not satisfied and happy and how the system is being run presently. He lamented that the face of the skilled killings, lopsided appointments, shortchanging of the oil-rich states for reasons not so far from bad politics, among other things witnessed under the current administration, that he has lost faith in the country as a federal state. His words, and I quote, "As far as I'm concerned, the Nigeria that I was born into has ceased to exist. It is no longer what it used to be. We're now grouping around either for a rebirth or end whatever that is nomenclatured as Nigeria. I don't believe in Nigeria anymore because all the parameters from employment, appointments, infrastructure to security does not reflect that this is a federal state. And that is why today we clamor to return to true federalism. People now resort to self-help. Emmanuel, let me get your thoughts on this. Let's just move on.
Well, I think with the indices is given, it's very much apparent that this something is jaunty somewhere. And so there should be a rebate, like he stated. And that's why people are looking for it. For instance, he mentioned lopsided appointments. He mentioned herdsmen going, as it were, on rampage, killing people. I really don't know. It's a vexed issue. I don't know why government seem to be keeping quiet about that. Because he mentioned specifically, Ugeli.
Delta State.
Good. Has government not heard that? Is herdsmen or are herdsmen stronger than government? Why is it that every other one they will stamp on them to at least do a semblance of what looks like a semblance of stoppage? But on herdsmen issue, nobody monitors them or whatever. So when you are in a country that showcases this kind of problems, what you will only look is for a way for things to be better. And I think that's what restructuring of federalism is. Because the type of federalism we are running in this country is not what should be federalism. And that is why perhaps they coined it through, where I do not know where it comes from. But I think what government should do is to right the wrongs that are inherent in the federalism we are practicing.
All right, okay. Got your thoughts there. Let me get to Dr. Lulu.
Well, the question of federalism in Nigeria, people are saying it, and experts, traditional rulers, I mean, big officials in parties and all that. But it's like, I don't know what is happening. The courage to come together and discuss our existence. That's how we are going to live. We are afraid. And that is why we are postponing the evil days. Like I said before, we have a lot of problems. But 60% of Nigerian problem is entirely on the structure of this country. It cannot go, it will not work. Look at what happened in Kaduna State. 51 persons killed in one day. And then the governor cannot do anything. What are we talking about? And governor like El-Rufai, give El-Rufai 2,000 policemen. That thing will not happen. But they killed 51 persons before police came from Abuja and the deed was done. Right. So, as a matter of fact, we shouldn't be talking this thing. People should not be talking, in isolation. Let us come together and restructure this country. That is the basis for existence.
All right. Well, we've also got Honorable Jerome Chukwuemeka Okere, Esquire, Public Affairs Analyst and a legal practitioner based in Port Harcourt, joining us. Good morning.
Thank you, Annie.
All right. So we're talking about Senator Okon. He says why Nigerians are clamoring for true federalism. He says the Nigeria he was born into doesn't exist anymore. And he says we're getting to the point where it's either we get to that point where we have a federal the true federalism as clamored for by so many, and that's either a rebirth or an end to whatever is nomenclatured as Nigeria. He says, I don't believe in Nigeria anymore because all the parameters from employment, appointments, infrastructure to security does not reflect that this is a federal state.
What he is speaking from the existentialism of what is happening now. Now, because of the practical nature, when I mean by practical nature, that's distinguishing theory and practice. You begin to see that the word federalism has acquired several nomenclature. Some are calling it a true federalism, some are calling it quasi-federalism. The fact is that federalism is federalism. And what is federalism? It portends some existence of some elements. There must be fiscal federalism if federalism should exist. The mode of allocation of resources must be federal in nature, true federal in nature. Structurally, the states should have state police. There should be that existentialism to show that these component states are coordinate. And then the resources of the state, they now pay a kind of percentage to the federal. But that is not in existence. And that, to a great extent, has a cost damage in the existence of the structural imbalances. Now, the federal government is highly centralized. There is centralization of so many issues. We need to diffuse. Diffusion of power is in line with federalism. Federalism discusses how the various states can, on their own, develop and then compete among themselves. They are coordinate in nature. They are not non-superior. Then the center is just a regulatory body. We see that in the United Nations. In fact, United States will have various states have Supreme Courts. So, when you disperse some of these things, you begin to see efficiency. Some level of efficiency, none is perfect, but however, you see an enhanced system whereby security will be, to be great extent reduced. Assuming you have state police, and the degree at which some of these crimes are happening, terrorism within the nation won't take place because you will see persons. It will create employment. It will generate competition and development. So when Senator Cohn is talking and say, look, we have lost this country. This country was built on a federal system of government. In fact, if you look at the entire chapter 2 of the Constitution, most of the things provided are not even attended to. So Nigeria is in a quagmire. We are in a dilemma.
Okay.
A kind of tilting towards failure.
All right.
I won't say it's a fair state because I believe in Nigeria, but we need to have leadership to aggregate these things for our enhancement.
Okay, I got your thoughts on that. I just need to ask a question though. When Senator Okon was senator, was he proposing anything along these lines? I'm just trying to. Does anybody remember?
He has not.
All right.
Yes, and only even if he does.
I just like to see,
Yes,
the other day we're talking about the United States when they're trying to impeach the president, and how you could tell the records of everybody else and they stood up and owned the position that they had, so that in future you could trace that this is how. So, and I'm wondering, okay, good, if this is what the senator feels, I mean, when he was senator, can we reference any of his proposals and his bills that he has pushed as someone who felt that I need to allow the people, own a government. Well, I guess until the water turns bad before we think well.
Well, it will be revealed in a matter of time.
That's a very strong point.
Until the water turns bad before.
No, when they are there, they prefer Jojo. They begin to eat and then undermine. That was why most of the times I say it is a struggle between the rich and the poor.
As far as because I think so too.
Yes, it is not just anybody working. It's not ethnicity. It's not religion. But the rich and
just
poor.
the rich.
Yes.
A major obstacle against federalism in Nigeria are the elites.
Yes, the ones who are in power.
Yes.
The ones who are in
one
power.
of the major obstacles we have.
All right, let's move
Apart
on.
from tribalism and all that.
Fresh Kaduna killings. We would negotiate with terrorists and bandits, says El Rufai. Says here that Governor Nasser Ahmad El Rufai of Kaduna State yesterday vowed to rout out bandits from the state, saying he would not negotiate with terrorists. The governor, who spoke against the backdrop of Sunday night's killings of over 50 people in Giwa and Igabi local government areas by bandits, was told by the locals who lost their loved ones in the attack the casualty figure from the evasion was over 50. A visibly disturbed El Rufai reiterated that there will be no negotiations with bandits as the dead were yesterday buried according to Islamic rites. Nasser El Rufai, who visited the invaded communities, which include Kerewa, Ungwe Musa, and Zariawa, among others, he says that the intervention by security personnel on land and in the air, the situation would but for the intervention of security personnel on land and in the air, the situation will have been worse. El Rufai said his government is not and will never negotiate with bandits. He advocates their prompt elimination when they are identified. The locals said the bandits came on Sunday morning heavily armed. Meanwhile, the lawmaker representing the troubled communities in the House of Representatives, Alhaji Ibrahim, has sought the intervention of the federal government in Igabi West. He told the BBC Household Service that the area and other parts of the state were in a state of emergency because bandits often killed indiscriminately in the area. Buhari should come to our rescue. We need federal government's intervention, he said. Bandits had on Sunday attacked Kerewa village in Igabi local government area of Kaduna, killing over 50. A Voice of America Household Service report monitored by journalists in Kaduna said even newborn babies, almajiris, and others were not spared by the gunmen. The reports indicated that Kerewa village had for long suffered untold hardship in the hands of kidnappers. It's things like this that just point to the very fact as to why you need to have that state of true federalism established. You have people in Kaduna State shouting for Buhari to come help them. I mean, I'm looking at how far the distance is. What response are you possibly going to get all the way from Abuja to Kerewa?
And is it the only place that needs help?
Is that the only place?
Nigeria.
Everybody's crying for Buhari's attention. You have a state governor. You can't even cry to the state governor. You have a local government chairman. You can't cry to the local government chairman to provide adequate security for your life.
Well,
I don't understand it. We just spoke about how the elites enjoy this because, well, they're eating. But I don't understand how I want to eat and I keep hearing these cries over and over. And I'm not thinking I should be able to solve it to the best that I can. And if that means I don't have you crying to me all the time, well, so be it. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me that I know for sure that I will unburden this responsibility for myself. Okay, I can't offer you this protection that you desire. I'm giving it to you. Take care of it.
Well, for me, I do not understand what El Rufai means by saying there's no negotiation. If the bandits have swooped on his family and then taken a lot of them, would he be saying this? Even if he does, is it the right thing? Negotiation is part of a settlement, even if it's warfare.
Well, I agree with him. I see other states that have negotiated and then nothing.
Oh, well, the powers like the United States, Israel, all the rest of them, they go into negotiations.
Hold on. But even if they do, have you heard them say on standing there on authority and say, I will negotiate?
Don't negotiate in this kind of war.
No.
When there are people
even if it's not this war, but you would not hear the U.S. government say we will negotiate.
Yes.
Well, the fact is that negotiation, whether you say it or not, is part of settlement.
So that
but the fact is
he can go behind doors and negotiate if he wants to.
Unless he will do so.
But he must be firm about the government not negotiating with terrorists. How many we would negotiate with?
It's a sign of weakness.
It is a sign of weakness.
and then life is going.
It's even a criminal.
Even when you negotiate, that's what
this is a criminal matter.
Okay.
Bandits, they are
and wait for their
criminals.
own negotiation.
But if you look at where America negotiates, it's about, it's about who will be in charge, about government issues and all that. But where there is criminality, who are you? You are negotiating with criminals?
Americans negotiate when there's hostage. When you hold their
hostage,
citizens
that's
hostage, and there's nothing to be done.
Then who
Now,
takes the hostage?
No, that's what I'm saying. In crime, in fact, in America, it's a crime that in 5 minutes police can't respond. Now you will see an act of criminality, banditry, taking a whole day, completely a whole day. People are head rampage, and nobody is talking. Nobody is taking any action until people are decimated. Now you will come up on air, and during prayer you will now say, "Look, we are going to negotiate with the bandits to ensure that this thing is stopped." Is that governance? It shows that the state is weak. The government that is the pilot of the state is also weak. So for me, I'm in tandem with that statement Erufai is making, but that statement shouldn't just be made. I am saying when you make that statement, you back it up with the instrumentality of force and ensure that you put things in place to ensure that is stopped. I don't know the security architecture of this nation has failed.
But Erufai was saying that
federal government has failed in
where 50% died. He said the situation would have been worse. Is it not worse already?
No, he said no worse comparatively. No comparatively.
Comparatively.
Yes, that's what they say.
And then Nigeria, when we say 50%,
it may have been going to 70.
What they said, even if it's 1 million, what they said, if they didn't intervene, more would have been killed.
And that's the truth.
Yes, it's a fact. If that not for the intervention, at what point was that intervention? How spontaneous was that? That is the question to be asked by any concerned citizen.
You've got newborn babies who have almajiris that are just abandoned people, and then you still massacre these ones?
That's why there should be negotiation.
That's why there shouldn't be negotiation.
If that's the only way to stop it.
No, that is why there shouldn't be negotiation. There should be a resolute. There should be a resolute move by the government to get these people, because we have negotiated in Katsina, and then we look at what's going on in Katsina.
No,
we
there
have
must be a
negotiated
breach.
in
There
Zamfara.
must be a
Look what's
breach with
going
the
on in
terms.
Zamfara.
If you continue to negotiate,
How many times have they negotiated with Boko Haram, and yet here we are?
An enhancement for others to begin to say, look, let us go and strike, so we can also be called for negotiation.
If there were no negotiation with the Niger Delta, whatever, militants,
is it not ongoing? Don't we still have the same problems? At every point in time, they'll tell us we're going back. It's Emmanuel.
Now,
what
even
sort of reprieve when it seems as if they have got to your throat, and at every point they'll tell you, "I'm going to plunge." You take a move, they tell you, "Okay, we're heading back to the creek." So you really didn't do anything.
No, but at least a semblance of peace reigns now.
You should
I agree with you. Yes. Some semblance of peace
the nature
exists.
of that struggle, even though nobody supports that struggle, they came up and said, "Look, this is an area that is degraded. This is an area where the chunk resources is coming out from, and nothing is happening." And then they now took it, and then the thing ran out of their hands, and then it became insurgency and banditry. But in this part of the country, it does not channel. What is the
nothing?
What is the
Nothing.
demand? What are they asking for?
They don't have nothing.
It's just banditry.
Small children are killed.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Nothing should be left.
And they told us why they are fighting. What is the struggle for?
Right,
these people in Niger Delta came up and said, "Look, I'm not in support of them."
At least,
but I'm saying they came and said, "Look, we are producing oil. Nothing is happening here.
This is the reason why we're doing this.
And the federal government intervened and said, "Look, we will do this, we will do that," and they decided to sheath their sword. Now, what?
And that's why the federal government has an amnesty program that never ends.
I think he was the chairman of restructuring of the Nigerian
the committee that was.
The committee was the chairman. Now, what is he doing? And
he has done the part he can do. He has done the part he was mandated to do.
Yeah.
He has collated the ideas, presented it to the president. It is left. That is it.
There's nothing he can do.
No, but when you chairman of that committee, you ran after it, did it, and delivered.
Because I believe that somebody like Erufai, if you give him
let's not do assumption. Dr. Robinson.
No.
Assuming you were the chairman.
Move on.
No, he's a strong-willed person.
Yes, strong-willed person. Give him
you understand?
5,000
But he's not the
policemen.
commander-in-chief.
Yeah, it's
So
not.
what power does he have?
That's the problem.
So
All right,
that's why.
let's move on. I have other
That he's in
stories
a
in there.
position.
I have other stories in the Vanguard newspaper. All right, APC lashes out at unfaithful members. Following the dust raised by the nomination of the immediate past governor of Oyo State, Senator Abiola Ajimobi, as the All Progressives Congress APC Deputy National Chairman South, the party has lashed out at those that betrayed it during the last election in the state, describing them as blackmailers seeking undue recognition. The Oyo State chapter of the party on Monday, in a letter written to the national chairman of APC, Adams Oshomole, and signed by the chairman of the party in the state, Chief Aki Oke, and various executives of the party, added that it has been inundated with the nefarious activities of some opportunistic elements and fifth columnists who were disturbing the media space with periodic tantrums in the name of attracting undue attention to themselves as political players. The party said the political clowns will stop at nothing to rock the boat of Oyo APC from a distance ever since they were not part of the family again, having left to join other political parties at different times, adding that the latest in the series of their shenanigans is the unpopular stand on the nomination of Senator Ajimobi for the post of Deputy National Chairman South of the party. The letter added, for some of them who were with us at one time or the other, and those political neophytes being co-opted into the script, it is simply an act of betrayal against the person of Senator Ajimobi, as it is not in our character to profile any funny character under our roof. We cannot always help the situation when it is black sheep that comes forward to reveal his status as a slave within the clan. The build-up to the crisis, which engulfed Oyo APC in 2018, was the handwork of some enemies within who were indulged for too long by the leadership of the party. You know, it just seems to be a little name callings going on here. Emmanuel, your thoughts here? It says here that they lashed at unfaithful members.
Yes, they will. They should also. Those who are aggrieved will also, even if they have left the party, they must indeed vent their spleen on APC, because there are reasons that made them leave the APC. You don't say they have left and joined other political parties, their mouth should just end that way. They will indeed keep on talking. Look at what happens in this one. Look at what. But the big question is, the one they entered, is everything intact? Whether it is or not, that is what they have gone to that one.
Yeah,
so
but
don't expect them to keep quiet. No.
I was expecting them to keep quiet.
No, I wouldn't.
Why would you want to go into the mud with them? That's what I thought.
No, see, I won't. Because, see, they had, before they left, they had been negotiating or telling these people, see, what is all these things that is springing up and all this and that. Now, the oddities were glossed over. They now left. And so they will tell the whole world, the entire world, why they left.
All right, we've got your thoughts there. Let me have yours, Dr. Lulu.
Well, Nigerians and our political parties, there are times for governance and we have times for political maneuvers. This is time for governance. They should leave the governors alone. Those that are aggrieved, they should wait when the time comes for power struggle. For now, let the governor of the state settle down for governance so that the people can reap the dividends of democracy.
All right.
That's what I think.
Okay, got your thoughts there. And then finally?
The problem with our political system is that those who occupy the top echelon of political parties do not understand the essence of party and partism. A party is a platform provided for all to be able to achieve the benefits that are derivable from government. Now, when you are at the head of affairs and you fail to aggregate all interests to a reasonable extent in such a manner that persons who are aggrieved are given opportunities to ventilate their anger and then provide solutions or coordinate to a reasonable extent so that people will understand why they shouldn't do this or they shouldn't do that. Now, APC as a party lacks leadership. I have said this in several fora that Adam Oshomole cannot and has failed to provide any atom of leadership. All Oshomole has done since he assumed office as chairman of the party is to create division in various states, aligning interests and money politics to vary the sense of reasoning. And this has snowballed into several party members thinking of an alternative, just like what is happening in River State. You may not be aware that most of us have moved to PDP. We are no longer there because there's no coordination. if you
Have you moved?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, I have, because party is all about interest.
I knew one or two people who moved. I didn't hear of yours. Okay.
Yes,
No,
so
I did.
congratulations.
Yes,
So
among them.
what I'm saying is, in essence, is that at every point in time, it's permanent interest. There's no permanent enemy. You need to get a place where your interest first and foremost, and then the group interest. And now